of the meeting of Mayor and Council. Thank you all for being here. If you'll rise for the invocation. Almighty God, we give you great thanks and praise for this opportunity to live in such a beautiful place as Seaford. We just give you all the thanks and all the honor for all the blessings you've bestowed upon our town. So many things, so many great things have happened, and we give you all that credit. We ask that you would be with us here tonight, guide and direct us, and may we honor you with all that we say. We ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Okay, as a reminder, we do have an executive session tonight. Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, Mayor, there are not.
Okay, Council, you've received the minutes from our last meeting. If there are no questions or changes, I'll accept the motion to receive the minutes.
Councilman Henderson, so moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. All right, tonight we have a public hearing at 7:05, so to be productive with our time, we're going to jump to new business number 5, and I'll invite Director Bennett up to go through the bids on the new dump truck.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and City Manager.
Good evening.
We went out to bid for a dump truck to use with the chipper. Put it out the first time, received no bids. We put it out again. We received 2 bids. Pacifico Ford in the amount of $64,397 with a 400-day delivery time. And Winter Ford out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey at $66,767 based delivery time based on manufacturer's production schedule. It's my recommendation that the bid be awarded to Pacifico Ford Inc. in the amount of $64,397. It would be a 400-day delivery from the time they receive their letter of award and a purchase order. If the Director of Finance and Human Resources chooses to finance this purchase, it would amount to maybe one payment in the FY23 budget.
Okay, are there any questions for Director Bennett in regards to the bids on the dump truck? If not, I will accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to award a bid for the dump truck to Pacifico Ford Incorporated in the amount of $64,397 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman McCoy. Is there a second?
Councilman King, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
And Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Mr. Bennett. Appreciate it. All right, we still have a couple minutes, so we'll go through reminder of meetings.
Okay, so thank you, Mayor. We have the SCAT Legislative Breakfast on April 29th at 9 a.m. at the Cheer Center in Georgetown, Delaware. I know several are attending that. City Hall and utility divisions will begin to observe summer hours. That's 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. on May 2nd, 2022. So that's next Monday. We go to summer hours. We have a city budget meeting workshop on May 3rd at 6 p.m. from 6 to 8 here in council chambers. And then National Day of Prayer is May 5th at 12:20 p.m. on the City Hall steps here on High Street.
That's
all
right,
I have,
Thursday.
sir.
Okay, very much. We'll go ahead and close our regular meeting and open up our public hearing, and I'll call up our building official, Mr. Mike Bailey.
Good evening, everybody.
Good
evening.
So there are several items on tonight's public hearing. We'll just go right into the first one for Governor's Grant Investors LLC. They're requesting to rezone a parcel from the current R3 high-density residential to R2 medium-density residential. This property is located on Chesapeake Drive in Governor's Grant subdivision. Tax map of parcel 531-10.00-3.79.00. I'd like to introduce Mark Davidson from Panoni. He's the engineer that is designing this project. He wants to do his presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. For the record, my name is Mark Davidson. I'm a principal land planner with Panoni Associates located just outside of Milton, Delaware. I'm here tonight representing the application for Governor's Grant Investors LLC. The members of that would be Gus Kroll, Mr. Jeff Garrison, and Mr. Mark Stonecipher, and they are the managing members. The property is bordered on the north and west by Governor's Grant, the existing Governor's Grant, which is zoned R2. It's bordered on the south by Bel Air, which is a single-family detached zoned R2, and Bel Air, which has townhomes, which is zoned R3. And it's bordered on the east by various light industrial zone lands and uses. In the code, the purpose of the R2 medium density residential district is to limit residential development to lots that will yield a density of approximately 9 to 10 dwelling units per acre. Several housing types are allowed in addition to professional uses within such structures. In the R2 district, land, buildings, or premises shall be used by right only for uses permitted in the R1 district. The granting of this application to R2 medium density residential zoning will allow Governor's Grant investors to continue the existing subdivision with single family detached housing as permitted under section 15-2.1 of the Seaford zoning code. The proposed rezoning to R2 for this property is in the vicinity of other R2 zone properties, and the uses will not diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood, will not create a public nuisance, or result in an increase of public expenditures. In the 2021 Seaford Comprehensive Plan, the area for the proposed rezoning for this property is identified to be in a residential land use classification according to your future land use map number 10, and is part of a large block of other residential properties. Table 11-7 in the comprehensive plan provides guidance for zoning classifications based on suggested land use categories. R2 medium density residential zoning classification meets the land use category of residential. In the comp plan on page 11-5, the Delaware State Housing Authority 2015-2020 housing needs assessment highlights new emerging housing market in Seaford. They state that houses are getting smaller, adults remain single for longer, and there are more couples with no or few children, leading to an increase in single-person households and small families. It also states that households are getting older as the baby boom generation ages into their senior years. Similarly, older families tend to be smaller in size as children move out of their parents' homes. And with the growing senior population and smaller families in general, the demand for larger single-family homes is waning in lieu of smaller, more affordable single-family homes. The two stated goals in the comprehensive plan for future land use chapter 11 and 11-1 provide a balance of land uses within the city while honoring existing and considering new land development, and in 11-2 ensure consistency between the zoning map, the land development and redevelopment as stated in the comprehensive plan. And this property is consistent with the application presented this evening for the change of zone, as it's in the area of other R2 zones, and as well as it's in the residential area of the comprehensive plan. Shown on the maps are in the 2020 strategies for state policies and spending identifies this area as being an investment level 1. And just some minor housekeeping items on this. There are no wetlands on this property. The property is located in a flood zone X. There are no historical and natural features on the property. Stormwater is existing on the property and part of the original Governor's Grant subdivision, and the properties are not in any groundwater protection zones or wellhead protection areas. And you can see from the aerial here where this property is located, adjacent, just south and and east of the existing Governor's Grant subdivision. You can see the stormwater management pond that borders on the east side of this property, which is between, and our proposal for the project will be within the vacant portions of the Governor Grant's property. And with that, we feel that the proposed rezoning meets the general purpose of the zoning ordinance, being located in an appropriate location, meeting the purpose of this district and the future land use plan, strategies and objectives of the comprehensive plan that promotes the growth and development through community design, mobility, utilities, transportation, and economic development in an area where a general mixture of residential uses now exists, which is essential, desirable for the general convenience, ordered growth, prosperity, and welfare of the city. And with that, that's my presentation, and with the recommendation of the Planning Commission to approve the rezoning, I'm here to take any questions that you might have.
We'll do that now. Questions, from Councilman King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Received quite a few emails and comments concerning Governor's Grant, as we all know, has concerns now with stormwater management. So if I understood you correctly, looking at this aerial photograph, are you suggesting that your project would share the current system that's already in place for Governor's Grant? Or are you going to build something in addition?
One of the things that we have to do because of the pond being existing, and I don't believe they have submitted, according to the Conservation District, they haven't submitted a stormwater as-built yet, so we're as-building the pond. So we've already done the as-built. We've topoed, done a topography survey of the entire site. So one of the things that we have to be able to prove to the Conservation District in order to get final approval is to make sure that the pond meets today's current standards. So we will be running a new analysis of that stormwater pond based on how it was designed for the entire property. It was designed for the existing Governor's Grant as well as the R3 project that was proposed at that time. So we will have to, but that was done back in 2001, I believe it was. So we're going to have to bring this up to the new standards.
Sure, but wouldn't you think that aspect is critical to have that aspect or part of it done before you make your presentation? Because let's say we approve it and then you run into a situation where it doesn't pass or there's concerns with the stormwater management. So the project doesn't move forward until that's fixed, correct?
Well, what we're asking for is a rezoning. We're asking for a downzoning from the R3 down to an R2.
No, right.
As part of the project that we're going to do for the R2 part of the zone, which is a 40-lot subdivision, there's sufficient space there to expand the pond. And so far, what we've looked at, based on the analysis of the size of that pond, it is sized large enough to handle. Again, there was more impervious surface with the R3 project when it was proposed to have the multifamily buildings proposed for that property. What we're doing is we're reducing the impervious surface by doing the single-family detached. So the pond was sized large enough. And what we're having to do is, and I don't believe it was ever cleaned out. After they built, as you can see on the aerial, not the entire Governor's Grant is completely built. This is probably an aerial photo that's about 2 years old. So that pond was never cleaned out, nor has an as-built ever been submitted. So I believe once it's cleaned out, it was designed as a dry pond, not a wet pond.
Sure.
So I think why you're seeing water sit in that pond, that's the sediment that has built up in that pond during construction.
Sure.
And I believe it's been cleaned out since then.
Sure. So with that being said, who maintains the pond?
The homeowner association.
So there will be a homeowners association
Yes.
for this?
And we did, my clients are agreeing to join in with that homeowners association.
Sure.
With their 40 lots.
Okay. And
There'll be a time for public comments.
the last question I have is, what about traffic flow? Are you adding any additional entrance, exits? Or are you sharing what's already there?
Get to the, So what we're looking to do, and this is part of my next application here, for the subdivision application is we're extending Chesapeake Drive, as you can see over on the left-hand side of the screen there. And we are connecting up to Bethany Drive.
Okay.
So will be a connection point, so there'll be, so that there will be a connection to be able to maneuver traffic in and around the entire development.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Councilman McCoy.
Clarifying question. So currently, Governor's Grant has a HOA in place now.
That's correct.
The new development that you're proposing, or will be proposing, will have a new HOA?
It can, or it can join in with the existing HOA that is currently there, which would, I would think, the HOA, since the streets are being turned over to the city, the only maintenance, the share of the maintenance would be with the stormwater pond and some smaller open space areas that are within, as you can see, right adjacent to the pond, we have, a little bit of open space there. The open space, I believe, calculates to come out to be about 1.31 acres. So there's some open space that'll have to be maintained by a homeowners association. And again, those particulars can be worked out between the new owners, which is my clients, and the existing homeowners association within Governor's Grant. But this is an extension of the existing Governor's Grant subdivision.
That's kind of where I was heading, is I know we're doing a, public hearing tonight, but as we move forward, the communication with the current HOA, and if there's going to be an additional HOA, I prefer proactiveness and figure out, make sure they're all on the same page before we get too far down and then we're running into issues.
Okay, other questions from council?
I have one more.
Councilman King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So talk a little bit about the vision for R3, how it's currently zoned, and R2. So what does that look like? So what was the vision for R3, and why are we here tonight talking about R2?
Well, R3 was a much higher density project that was being proposed, and since the project was never built, I believe the city of Seaford changed their R3 code. And with the restrictions that were placed within the R3 code and the way this property is shaped, the project could not be developed as it was proposed to the city back when it was zoned to R3. So that project could not be built, and it was better for, my clients felt that it was necessary to keep in kind with the existing neighborhood of R1. There's single-family detached homes currently on both sides of the subdivision, although I believe Bel Air on the back southeast side of this property, they're zoned R3 with townhomes. We're just keeping it with what existing Governor's Grant is, which is single-family detached.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from council? We're taking questions from the public now. So if anybody has questions or comments, and again, just to clarify, there's two parts of Governor's Grant public hearing tonight. The first part is really just going from the R3 to the R2. So if you have something you want to discuss at that time about that part of that's when you would come up now. The next part of this will be going to the 40 lots. Okay? You're more.
My concern is the stormwater ponds.
She needs to come.
Okay.
You have to come up- you
So
have to
come on up and speak into the mic, state your name and your,
Do you have the statement I sent you?
we do?
May I have it?
Sure.
Here you go, Ms. Wayne.
I have no idea who is here tonight, whether the principals, the investors are here.
Can you,
I have some
Mrs. Mrs. Wayne, can you speak into the mic?
Sure.
And then state your name and address
Okay.
for the record, and then just speak into the mic.
And speak
Everybody,
to you.
everybody can hear you, and if they
Okay.
can't, they'll wave to me. We'll make
Okay.
sure you're speaking into the mic.
My name is Charlotte Wayne, and I live at 315 Plantation Drive in Governor's Grant. And I have some important information. It seems to me, just from hearing that presentation, that there's great misunderstanding about who owns what and how. First of all, our restrictions, our declaration, are not compatible with the new proposal for the 40 dwellings. We have a requirement that, and secondly, we would need a two-thirds approval by our members before we would even consider accepting and integrating with another community. We have been the victim of a scam perpetrated, and I happened to hear one of the names just a few minutes ago from this gentleman, Mark Stonecipher. And Mark was one of the original developers of Governor's Grant. He, along with Curtis Larimore. And I don't think we can speak highly of them because they told us and failed to disclose on the Delaware disclosure form that we did not, in fact, own either stormwater pond. That went on from 2006. I discovered this in 2018. That still remains the case. But all those years, we have been paying the several thousand, last year it was $4,000 and some dollars to maintain just the wet pond alone. And I don't want to minimize how expensive ponds are. For 40 people to sustain a pond, we can't even sustain ours, and we're about ready to go belly up because it's just too, we have a problem. We have a very disinterested membership, and consequently, we have a large problem with paying assessments. And just for what the management company charges and the pond take up all the money we're collecting with nothing left over. We have $1,500 insurance bills. Now that's because the fraud was committed and we have been maintaining insurance on that pond, which is very expensive. And we don't own it. So we were not protecting ourselves, nor were we protecting the owner, who was Mr. Bart Phillips. Because if somebody got injured, if he didn't carry insurance of his own, our insurance would not have covered him. This has been a duplicity of great significance, I think. And it has continued on. Nobody seems to be upset about it. I have made it known to the board. We continue on to this day maintaining that pond to a point. We can no longer afford to treat it. So if you take a ride by today, it is covered with green scum. And to think that we were also told that the big hole in the ground, the dry pond, was ours. We never even attempted to keep that because there was no way we had the funds to do it. So the pond is still owned by Bart Phillips of SNL. And Mark Stonecipher and Bart Phillips and Curtis Larimore are a trio who set out from the very beginning of the Governor's Grant development to defraud us by telling us that we own those ponds. It met the developer's needs at the time. Once they left, then it met the future purchase. All the while when Bart bought this, he had in mind those ponds servicing the apartments. That was his goal. So when the tide turned and word got out, I guess maybe a lot of talk, in December of 2020, late December, Bart decides that he's going to deed both ponds to us. And he does. He executes a deed. He went to his attorney's office. And so he names Governor's Grant HOA as now the owner of these two ponds. Now, his attorney probably told him, but he just decided to do it anyway. It's not binding because we would have to accept the pond as a gift, and we would have to, again, put that to the vote. There is no way, having been stiffed by this triumvirate of Phillips, Stonecipher, and Larimore, that we're going to get anybody to sign on anything to be involved in any way with this new development. We would like to be totally out of it. I'm not speaking, I can't say what everybody, but the bottom line is we're about to go belly up, and we're faced now with a situation. It will be taken out of our hands. So somebody needs to plan on who's going to take care of those ponds, because I don't think we can last the year looking at our funds. No one seems to be concerned but a few of us, and those people are here tonight. So I think you all need to very seriously consider the stormwater pond has to be resolved. I don't care if you let Bart keep it and let him run his own private stormwater pond, and you can hook on, and each of us owners can be assessed a fee. It may cost us more, but we won't have this problem of running an HOA that's totally dysfunctional and having ponds that really aren't doing what they're intended to do. He even also deeded us the pump station for the ponds. Now, I don't even know that they're functional. But I mean, he tried to pawn off when he decided he was not going to be able to get the R3 zoning and do the apartments. He saw no need, apparently, at that time for the ponds. So he did not, and obviously, they're good friends. Bart and Mark talk, and that's the reason Mark's in on this deal. So I've laid it out for you. I have everything. I have deeds. I have long records, and I can substantiate everything I've said here tonight. I don't make statements like this lightly. I'm prepared to back everything I have said here, and I think it's time that we take this seriously.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to? Yes, please. If you'll state your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Randy Chulik. We're at 414 Plantation Drive in Governor's Grant. We just moved here a year ago. And we are right next to the pond. And this is more of practical information because I was here for the hearing earlier on this. And it was based on fact and finding. I'm not sure what that means. But we have a lake. When it really rains hard, it overflows and almost comes up to our property. And that picture, although the gentleman said it was 2 years old, I don't know. But there's a building behind us with a very shallow water retention pond. And it just overflows from all that light industry into that pond. I don't know if that's supposed to be. I have no idea. I'm just saying it fills up and it overflows during really heavy rains. So I don't know what's normal and what's not, but that might be a concern as far as expanding that pond. And my concerns also are with who is really responsible for it. Just get that settled. Right. But basically, that everybody aware that picture is not current and that there is water flowing in from that industrial park also across the power lines, and that picture, their trees, they were just removed a little while ago. That's all. Just wanted to bring that to your all's attention.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Good evening. Marion Lamb. I live at 122 William Ross Lane in Governor's Grant. I have no problem with any businessman making money, and that's why he bought the property. And he wants to put 40 homes there. But in talking with the Soil Conservation District about these ponds, they brought up to me that they haven't been brought up to specs to even be turned over yet. They haven't been accepted. And with 40 new houses going on that small area of land, I addressed the soil conservation people with the significant runoff, because last year, when we had those torrential rains, there was 2 foot of water in my backyard. And I'm pretty high. The roads look like a river. And with more development and more influx of any type of hard rain, that pond is really going to overflow and cause flooding. That's one concern. And another one is if they're just going to put a road in and out. When we experienced the flooding, and then we also experienced a terrible accident on Atlanta Road that shut down the system, there should be another way of egress out of the neighborhood than just our main entrance on Atlanta Road. And that's a safety, fire concern, emergency concern, cover all aspects of living. Now, the gentleman speaking for this development said there was a big importance of having smaller houses. Well, I'm going to argue that point because the 10 last lots in our community that were sold, they weren't built to the specs of the smaller houses. They were all built 2-story homes, and all 10 of them were either sold or rented as soon as they were built. And as our neighborhood is certain size homes, if they were to get into our HOA, which I would fight tooth and nail because our HOA can't even function with 96, and with 40 other homes in there, especially if he started and he did get in, that would give him 40 votes right off the top, and he would just need a few existing homes to swing things the way he wants to for our HOA regs as they're written now. I could see that happening very quickly. But first, I want to make sure that it's done properly and we have proper drainage to begin, so we don't have any flooding. You can't prevent it when we have these torrential storms that we've had. I mean, that's a gimme. But from a person who has experienced a house flooded in previous locations, and when I seen 2 foot of water in my backyard, which was only inches from coming into the house, that gives me great concern. So they need to address all aspects and make sure they get it right before they start. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, please?
I'm the president of the existing homeowners association. I called the storm management, or I called the management company and asked them about joining forces and having somebody else come in to the pond.
Can you do me a favor and just state your name and address?
James Logan.
Thanks.
Yep. And they said, and I could play it, because I asked her, I said, look, I'm a pretty stupid guy. I said, I would like you to tell me, in your words, because we're paying you professional money, to tell me what the deal is with that. Would you like to hear that, or you want me to give you my little synopsis? I want to take a minute. 2 minutes.
That's fine. Why don't you, can't deny the voice.
Yeah.
I have no idea. That's a great question.
I go to that.
And who's the person?
This is Raina Butler with our Homeowners Association Management Company.
Okay.
Oops, now I'm gonna play it. I told you I'm stupid. Here we go.
Okay. Anybody outside our parcel of land has no affiliation with our homeowners association whatsoever. Any adjacent property that wishes to use our facilities, our ponds, our streets, our anything in our community, they would need prior permission from the HOA. They cannot become part of our HOA until our documents are amended to say that they are, which would incur legal fees and expenses. So if they wish to join our HOA and become part of our parcel of land in our community and enjoy our facilities, they would need to pay all legal fees that would be incurred to join our HOA. Unless they want to do that, they are not permitted to use our stormwater management pond at all. No adjacent property is permitted to use our stormwater management pond at all. If the city or the county or the proper authorities is going to give them the approval to build this adjacent community and they wish to use our pond, they can contribute to the expenses maybe, but that would all have to be done in legal paperwork, documentation, and that would, again, all legal fees, cost, everything would be incurred by them, not our HOA. So if they want to join, or use, they'll need to incur legal fees and approval by the proper authorities in the town of Seaford, the Sussex County Conservation District, and Sussex County government, period.
So that's that. That's what we were told. Now, at the preliminary meeting on this same issue, I asked the gentleman, and they said, yeah, we'll take care of that. And I called the homeowners association management company and said, has anybody contacted you about this? They said, no. So, I mean, it all looks good on paper. And they did design the second pond to take it all in. But right now, we're the ones that are straddled with the expenses on it. And I think it needs to be addressed before you guys give it a proper okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hogan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Did you wish to respond to any of that at this time, or want to give you that opportunity?
Give it a shot.
Okay.
As far as what I can do is I'll have to consult with my clients about the joining in of the HOA. In our preliminary meetings with my clients, they stated that since the ponds have not been turned over to the HOA, but I'm hearing something different to that effect, sort of. I guess they have been or they haven't been. SED hasn't accepted. I do know that the Conservation District has not accepted the ponds because no as-bills have ever been submitted. I know that the ponds have never been cleaned out since they were first built, and with all the construction of the new homes for many years, the ponds needed to be cleaned out and they needed to be brought up. As-bills will confirm whether the ponds were sized large enough to handle what it was designed for and approved for during the design of that. As far as joining the HOA, if that's again, my clients will have to. I can't answer for them.
Right, I understand.
I'm assuming that they had conversations, but it sounds like they have not had conversations. So their thought was to join in on the existing HOA. This is a separate parcel of land. I guess they could form their own HOA. I do know the large pond here. I don't think the pointer. The large pond there on the east that separates us from the industrial side of the property here. Is on our property, is on the subject property. There is an easement granted to the governor's grant. So in that easement, there is language that talks about the sharing of the pond. Again, that has to be discussed with, it sounds like if that was the property managers talking on that conversation, I think those discussions will have to be had with my clients and them as well. So I do know, and we're told and led to, I believe, by the Conservation District that the ponds were shared. So, but we would have to bring those ponds up to current specifications. And again, I believe these things, it appears that subdivision was approved back in 2001. So these are 20 years old, and I don't know when those ponds exactly were built, but we'll do everything that we can to bring up, and we won't be able to get final approval of anything unless we satisfy, of course, the city of Seaford, Sussex Conservation District, Fire Marshal, all the agencies that are normal with projects of this type.
Well, I'm sure you have felt that the ponds are a big issue to the residents of Governor's Grant, and so that's an issue that's going to have to be addressed.
That's correct, yes.
Very clearly.
I've noted that several times here.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the public? Yes, sir, Mr. Lamb. Come back.
In our covenants and restrictions that were properly documented and submitted to Sussex County, they clearly state that upon 100% of Governor's Grant's lots being sold, the stormwater ponds and surrounding areas will be Governor's Grant. And to be maintained by them. It clearly states that in the restrictions and the covenants. And that's why once the last 10 lots were sold by Curtis Lattimore, they became ours. It's deeded in Sussex County. So unless you want to go back and change that, you know, the ponds are ours according to Sussex County law. That's all I can say.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Wayne, do you want to come back up?
I wish to assure all of you, I have spent so very much time that I know every document. I can visualize every document. Our controlling documents do not, they very indirectly mention if there is common areas, you have to maintain them. But what prevails is what the deeds show and who owns the property. And talking, you, sir, need to talk to Mark, and Mark needs to talk to Bart.
And
They are like-
Mrs. Wayne,
Yes, okay. I assure you, we do not, I repeat, do not own those ponds. Bart Phillips of SNL owns them. We have not accepted them. And please, I mean, I will, what do you need for me to substantiate that? I will send you the deeds. I sent you the whole history of who's owned it since 1900. As you can tell, I have a lot of law experience, okay? And I'm not trying to be difficult or argumentative, but I know what I know. And why we keep going in this circle is
just so we're clear tonight, what this group is here to decide on is on the R3 to R2 and then the 40-lot subdivision. It's been made perfectly clear for a number of years. This isn't the first time the pond issue has come up, that anybody who's been elected has not heard about that. So
right.
None of us are shocked by that.
But nobody seems to know that we don't own them.
The water coming up in your backyard to anybody, no matter whether you live there a year or 10 years, is unacceptable. But that's within that development, and we get it. It needs to be resolved. I believe Mr. Davidson heard that, right? So
Mr. Lamb and I back up to each other.
So we understand it needs to be fixed, and this might be the right opportunity to have this looked at and get this fixed. You have a new partner in there, but this group today is not voting on the ponds.
No.
We know it's a part of that. And we
Well-
know that we need to figure out how we can help incentivize or encourage this get fixed.
Right.
Okay.
But meantime, I mean, okay. Does the city not, when you know there is a fraud that exists and that it's being used for the benefit of a developer and as another party, and you have no interest in, right now, you're sending the bill to Bart correctly. He paid that bill for 21. He's not paying the Sussex County. He knows Seaford, I'm taking an eye on him. He knows the county, but I also checked the county records. And so he has not paid that. And I just can't, I mean, I really feel what has been done to us is warrants a referral to the Attorney General of Delaware for fraud. That is my background, and I think he's deserved. I think all three parties are deserving of, because they've created. You have no idea how much money we have spent chasing this round and around, and most people don't understand it, so it gets very exasperating for me.
understand.
That's enough.
Thank you, Mrs. Wayne. Any other comments from the public? Mr. Bailey?
Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I had a question.
Yes, Councilman King?
Thank you. Just so I'm clear, the current situation with the pond, and I know we're tired of hearing about the pond, but I think it's an important element if we're going to change anything, that's fixed first, me personally. But, so I understand. The homeowners association is responsible for maintaining the pond currently.
Because we don't own it.
We have been paying for it.
We've been doing it of our own volition.
Okay. So my point being, if the property owner isn't maintaining it, homeowners association typically could run out of money,
Oh, we are.
right?
We are.
So my question would, if that happens, then that whole system would fall back on the city, and then taxpayer dollars are responsible for the
Let me
care
talk
of
about
that system.
Hold on. Let's
Can I
not get
finish
off
my
on the wrong
question,
foot.
or
Yeah,
no?
okay.
No, go ahead, no. Go ahead.
So in essence, you're somewhat correct, okay? The city would be the last maintainer of resort. But
Okay.
what we would do is, in our code, it would become a code issue, just like any other grass, junk, and weeds issue that we
Okay.
would do. That pond services all those lots, all that land,
Okay.
the undeveloped as well as the developed. So if we have to maintain it, if we have to cut it, we're gonna bill the property owners. If we don't get paid, we're gonna lien the properties. It'll be a lien on their real estate.
Are you leaning Governor's Grant? Are you leaning a worthless pond
No,
management
it's
system?
everybody who benefits by our code, everybody who benefits from that stormwater management facility, because every property out there is dependent upon that stormwater system functioning.
Right.
So their properties don't flood.
Right.
So our code, and the city adopted it 5 or 7 years ago. We have yet to have to use it, and we don't want to use it. We want to encourage, and we have several of these homeowners associations that do this, and they navigate this. We try to help them with
Right.
this. And this is not uncommon in our state. You know, this happens up and down our state, where homeowners associations are responsible for common area maintenance items.
And I get that, but ultimately, this expense could fall back to the city and taxpayers to maintain this through the litigation and everything else that we figure out what's going on. It could, hypothetically, I mean, it could.
Yeah, it'd be like any other code
Okay.
issue where we would do that. I think in looking at this, there's a couple things I heard that have been stated from both sides. You know, the engineer has looked at, Mr. Davison has looked at this pond and has acknowledged improvements need to be made. And I think that's crucial to the functioning. What the residents are seeing potentially could be, because the pond is not built correctly and it's not functioning correctly. That's part of what needs to happen here. We need to determine that. In my view, and I might be missing it, but I believe that if we can all work together and a new homeowners association is formed for the 40 lots, and they have a reciprocal agreement between them for maintenance of a portion of the pond, that would take some of the burden off the existing residents and would help them with the apparent financial issues they are having. But that seems to me, if we can't work that out, I understand, but I think that's a path here that could possibly occur.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
I just would like to ask, make one more final.
If you'll come up again, Mrs. Wayne.
Thank you, Charles,
Yes, sir.
appreciate it.
The fact is, I have had discussions with your assistant probably a year or so ago about the ponds. And she called me and she said, she thought I was the president. I said, no, I'm just the troublemaker. And she asked me about the ponds and about sending it to the president of the HOA about keeping it up. And I said to her, well, look, you need to send it to Bart Phillips. Oh, okay, we'll do that. Well, what I have found, and this is my one complaint about the city, when violations of code are just kind of, yeah, we accept them and we record them, but we never do anything about them. And that's really been the case with, this has been going on, and we've been complaining about this pond and all for a long time, and nothing's been done. That's the truth. I'm almost losing that. 40 people. You expect 40 people to maintain that big pond? We had somebody come out and estimate, just like not even a thorough whatever, just kind of a curse, make it look better. And the bill is like $3,000 or $4,000. I said, no, thank you. It'll just remain like it is, an eyesore. So, we should be charging more, but we don't. I've given up on our HOA. I really have. It's not functional in it. After all these years, it's never going to be. And I don't see 40 people. Needless to say, if they're all first-time homeowners, what is the square footage of these houses? The square footage of each house?
Probably somewhere between 1,800 and 2,600 square feet.
That big? And you're going to get them on 40 of them on 7.17?
It's going to be two-story houses.
Okay.
30-foot wide.
Okay. Barrage?
Mrs. Wayne,
Sorry.
stay focused. Yeah, we got to,
But what I'm saying is, I don't think you folks realize how much it costs. And especially if you have individuals within a community who are willing to do the footwork, the legwork, then you can get by rather cheaply and you can get prices and quotes. We don't have that. So we go, it's like going to Tiffany's to buy something. We are paying high retail and the prices are just getting ridiculous. They're ridiculous.
we unfortunately are very much aware of what wastewater costs
Yes,
our city, so we know it is.
There's no way.
You
I
know,
mean, these people are going to pay as much for the, doing whatever to maintain it as they are for the
Right.
house payment.
Okay,
Okay, that's
thank
it.
you. I think we're trying to save money here at the city tonight by not running the air conditioning. Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you. So item number 2 is for Governor's Grant Investors LLC, requesting a preliminary site plan to review, to subdivide a parcel into 40 lots. The proposed zoning is R2 medium density residential, located on Chesapeake Drive, tax map and parcel 531-10.00-3.79, and Mark Davidson will be back up.
Again, for the record, Mark Davidson with Pannoni Associates. The proposal for the preliminary site plan is to propose 40 single-family detached lots, approximately 45 feet wide. Each side of the street would have a different length to each one, but approximately anywhere from 107 to 121 feet long. Everything within the, asking for no waivers within the zoning code, so we'd fit within the R2 zoning code. The minimum lot size in the zoning code is 4,500 square feet. Our average lot size is 5,322 square feet for the 40 lots. Our density is approximately 5.35 units per acre. R2 allows a density up to 9 to 10 units per acre. As I previously stated, that we're not in, the property is not within any groundwater protection area. It's not within any water recharge area or your well protection area, wellhead protection area. City services such as existing wastewater and sewer would be extended through these properties. We are proposing to extend Chesapeake Drive from its existing location on the western side of the property and connecting it up to Bethany Drive. And again, the stormwater pond, I know the stormwater is an issue. I would like to state that as far as stormwater ponds are concerned and turning those over, it sounds like to me that either the pond hasn't been turned over or it has been turned over. It sounds like, I believe the gentleman's name was Mr. Bart Phillips is still he was the original developer of the original grant, so he probably still maintains or he still has the responsibility of the stormwater ponds. I can tell you with the Sussex Conservation District, and certainly these folks are welcome to call Mrs. Jessica Watson, and she can confirm this, that nothing would get turned over. A stormwater pond or a stormwater facility within any development in the state of Delaware cannot get turned over unless it meets the functional requirements of the current code. So with that said, if this does not meet the current code and it hasn't been turned over to the homeowners association, again, there's that, I'm not quite sure, I've heard a couple of different things going on here, that in order for it to be turned over, 100% of the homes have to be sold. And if there's 96 existing lots in the current governor's grant and they haven't sold 96, then it hasn't been turned over. So the original developers still own the stormwater facility, and they should be maintaining it. If they're not, then that's where the Conservation District and possibly Danarek would come down and issue violations and make sure that that is getting maintained. I can tell you I will not be able to get final approval for these 40 lots until those ponds are functionable. And if that means they have to expand in order for that to happen, if the outlet structure that discharges the stormwater off the property is not functioning, my clients will have to make it functional, else they will not be able to build these 40 lots. They won't be able to do development at all. So those are things that will, if we know that we have an approved project here, we know that we have to do those things within the state of Delaware. We have to meet the new current state of Delaware criteria for stormwater management. Where the ponds fell under the old regulations, we have to bring them up to the new regulations. And that's possibly we will have to expand the pond. There is room to expand the pond, and there's room to look at the pond a little bit more closely in order for it to be acceptable. I can tell you we would not be able to walk away from this project until those ponds are acceptable by the state of Delaware.
Okay.
With that, that's the presentation of the site plan. Again, the roads would be turned over. There's sidewalks on both sides. The roads would be turned over to the city of Seaford. The roads will be built per the city of Seaford standards. We have done soil borings along the proposed roadway system in order to be able to bring the pavement design up to the city of Seaford's standard regulations for minimum pavement thicknesses. And again, curb and gutter, sidewalk on both sides, and we will extend the water and sewer through the property. And
Okay.
that's the preliminary site plan.
All right, questions from council? Questions from the public? Mrs. Wayne?
I would like to know.
Mrs. Wayne, if you'll come back up to the mic.
I would like to know how tall these houses are going to be. We see two-story houses in Mearsfield. And to be quite honest, Mearsfield is like Funny Town. I mean, these houses look like they were built for the Hobbit or something. They're not traditional height houses. I don't know how anybody over 6 feet can even get in the rancher. Are these going to be a regular standard height, and are they going to be stick built?
Yes, these are, we understand that the maximum height in the city of Seaford is 35 feet, 3 stories, but the, two-story houses tend to be somewhere around 22 to 24 feet tall, so these will be standard, meet all the current codes. If it's a single story, of course, it'll meet the current code. I can assure you that Mr. Garrison, who owns Garrison Homes, is one of the partners in here, and Gus Kroll owns AP Kroll Construction Company. So these guys, they're in the community. They're not going to sit here and build something that's not going to be out of character with the neighborhood. So they're going to build with what's in the neighborhood and stay within character of that neighborhood.
Thank you. Any other questions? You got to come back up.
You had mentioned about having to go through the process again on the ponds and see that they meet standards, current standards. And you referred to the developer and this and that. I think you're still confusing something. The developer of Governor's Grant did not ever at any time own the ponds, never. Bart Phillips owned those ponds from day one. It was 2004, by the way, not 2001. And the ponds were done in 2006, and they've always belonged to Bart. They never at any time, he actually bought everything that now constitutes Governor's Grant, the 7.17 acres, and the 2 ponds. He bought all those. He then transferred lots to our developer, but at no time were the ponds or the 1.7 acres ever deeded to our developer, naming North State Street. Bart's company is SNL, okay? Our developer was North State Street. So I think you're confusing that. So whatever Bart got approval for, whatever, it has nothing to do with our developer and turning over. And so this thing about, well, the state makes you turn over ponds to the owners upon the completion of the development. Well, that's true. However, our developer didn't own the ponds. So there's nothing to turn, you can't turn over what you don't own. Okay? Am I clear on that? Okay. I mean, because you seem, Okay.
Thank you. All right, any other comments from the public? Yes, sir, Mr. Hogan. Thank you.
James Wood. If you guys put that map back up, we get a tremendous, this gentleman here knows because he just moved in, we get a tremendous amount of water from the industrial park. And that's on that one pond. So that's an issue. You said we'd go against the people who put water in there. You'd have to go against them too because they're putting it in there. If they redesign it, if the county redesigns it, they're going to have to figure out a way to get it out of there.
I think what's important there, that the receiving ditch in the industrial park, and Mike has been out there, we've spoken with you about it. When we first got your video, there was construction going on in the industrial park, and they had put silt fence down in that ditch, which caused a headwater condition, which backed up into the structure. And I have spoken with you, I've spoken with our staff. I think that structure needs to have an analysis done because that headwater condition creates a backflow. So there are things that can be done to address that, but it has to be addressed. Survey needs to occur, and that condition needs to be addressed by a backwater valve, by changing of the orifice elevation. There's a few things that can be done, but you know, we've got to get the engineering done, we've got to get the analysis done, and we've got to try to solve it.
Okay.
But you are correct in what you're saying.
That's for that pond.
Yes, sir.
The other pond, which affects the lambs and Miss Swain, goes to the smaller pond.
Okay.
And that smaller pond, if you look at the design that the county has, is supposed to download to a pipe that Seaford was supposed to put in as an off-flow to get rid of that water. I don't know that that ever got done.
So we built a stormwater line up Atlanta Road back in the late 1999s, 2000s. And there, you know, a lot of this was developed in conjunction or slightly ahead of that, so was Bel Air. We can look at that and see if that pipe was put in. I don't want to sit here and say to you it was or was not.
I'm just saying that's probably what caused their flooding problem, because that little pond does fill up and it causes them a backup.
Yeah, I would, you know, in driving by it, I haven't gotten out and looked at it, but in talking about the maintenance that has or has not been done,
Right.
you know, the cleaning of the outfall structure is supremely important. One, literally a plastic bag from Walmart can block an orifice and create a flooding condition. So you're well aware of that. You know, cleaning out those phragmites and all that is very important. So the basic maintenance on the pond, at the end of the day, it has to get done in some kind of way to protect your property.
Right, right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yes, sir.
To remind you of that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lim?
One last one, I promise.
No, that's fine.
Everybody else is off. Mr. Morrison?
Davison.
Davison. I just have one thing. Mr. Davison said that they wanted to build smaller homes because older people and all that. Now he's trying to tell us they're going to be 1,600 to 2,some hundred square foot. Well, that's not smaller homes. So I don't know where that came from. And in our restrictions and covenants, it's worded that at 100% of the lots being sold, all the properties will be conveyed to the HOA. That's what it says in our covenants and our restrictions. And I know that maybe I can't read too good, maybe I don't see too good, but after having a seance with Ray Charles and all that, he concurred I was reading the right thing. It says that, and it's documented with the Sussex County. And that's all I can say. If it's in black and white, it's been documented, Sussex County has got it recorded, so I don't know where you go from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lamb.
Can you send it, Mr. Lamb? Will you send that to me where you read that?
Okay, Mr. Bailey?
Just as another note, this is a preliminary, so they will have to come back for a final, and they'll have to have their approvals from Conservation, Fire Marshal, and all those state agencies as well before this proceeds any further.
Yes, thank you.
So public hearing number 3 is for Alan T. Handy. They're requesting a preliminary site plan review for the construction of a proposed storage space facility located on Norman Eskridge Highway. Tax map and parcel 331-5.00-48.05, zoned C2 highway commercial. This is the property there. next to Nanticoke Automotive, Planet Fitness, and back the National Guard there, right behind it on Norman Eskers Highway. It's a vacant property as it is today. It's live streamed. So they're proposing 5 self-storage buildings, totaling 262 storage units of various sizes on the site with an entrance to Norman Eskers Highway with I believe, a fenced, the whole thing's fenced in. We do have requirements for that in the zoning code. And these are those requirements. They do meet all of them. We're working through some finer details for their final plan on some of the parking and entrance-wise. They still have to go to DelDOT for their entrance. They might have to rework that a little bit. But those are the requirements there in the zoning code. And if there's any questions.
All right, any question from council in regards to Mr. Handy's project? If not, are there any questions or comments from the public? Okay, Mr. Bailey.
Public hearing number 4 for Coastal Real Estate Holdings LLC, requesting a final site plan review for the construction of a proposed 9,421 square foot commercial building located on the corner of Fallon Avenue and Jet Drive, tax map and parcel 331-5.00-50.27, zone C2 highway commercial. This is a vacant land there on the corner of Fallon and Jet next to Trinity Logistics and the Nemours facility, right near the post office. They're proposing a 9,421 square foot, 1-story building. 60 paid parking spaces are provided. 48 is the required number by code. Stormwater will drain to an adjacent regional stormwater pond, and they have agreements for that already in place, as well as an agreement recorded for the shared entrance with Nemours. And it does require approvals from State Fire Marshal and Sussex Conservation, which I believe they do have. And this will be multiple tenant spaces in there. The majority of that will be for a pediatric dentistry with 3 additional shell spaces for future tenants.
Okay, are there any questions in regards to this project on Fallon Avenue and Jet Drive? Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Were there any changes from the preliminary plan to this plan?
The building got slightly larger from the preliminary, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Any questions from the public? Okay, Mr. Bailey.
For public hearing number 5 for Jesus and Margarita Sandoval, requesting a subdivision of a parcel into 2 lots so they can build single-family homes on those lots. The property is located on Thompson Court, and that is 431-5.00-390.00. The zoning is R2, medium density residential. This is the property there on Thompson Court. It's vacant land, and we did get a survey from them showing two lots there proposed. The zoning requirements is a minimum 4,500 square feet with a 35-foot lot width, and both of these are well over that. Lot 1 is 6,381 square feet, 58 feet wide, and lot 2 is 6,517 square feet and 58 feet wide. So it does meet all the bulk requirements for the zone.
Okay, any questions in regards to the subdivision on Thompson Court? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, Mr. Bailey.
Public hearing number 6, this is for Delmarva Central Railroad Company. They're requesting a subdivision of a parcel in order to sell the existing building, the former BASF plant, and lot. The property is located at 100 Industrial Park Boulevard, tax map and parcel 531-10.00-236.02. It is zoned M1 Light Industrial. Cliff Gunster is here from the railroad if there's any questions that I can't answer about this project. And as I said, this is the former BASF property. The railroad bought it several years ago because it has that railroad spur onto it, and they've been utilizing that for offloading the train cars onto trucks and stuff like that. They do have a potential client interested in purchasing just the building of the BASF property, and the railroad still wants to retain that spur, so they have designed the site in order to have just the building on one parcel, the railroad spur on their parcel, and I believe they'll have some kind of shared agreement because there is a pipeline connecting the railroad spur to this building, so they'll have some kind of inter agreement between the 2 properties for that. But the M1 zoning requirements is a 2-acre minimum, 200 feet wide, and both lots do meet those requirements. Lot 1 will be 5.64 acres and 503 feet wide. That's the building site that the BASF plant is on, and the remainder of that will be 7.77 acres, 465 feet on Tower Drive, which is the back where the water tower is located, and an additional 151 feet on Industrial Boulevard.
Okay, are there any questions from council on the Delmarva Central Railroad subdivision? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and close our public hearing, and it's 8:10. We'll go ahead and reopen our regular meeting, and we'll let Mr. Bailey walk us through this.
So we're going back to item number 1 for the findings of facts for Governor's Grant Investors LLC. They're requesting to rezone a parcel from the current R3 high-density residential to R2 medium-density residential located on Chesapeake Drive, tax map and parcel 531-10.00-379.00. Planning and zoning did make a favorable recommendation to council for approval on April 7th.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Henderson, I make a motion to approve the request of Governor's Grant Investors LLC to rezone a parcel from current R3 high-density residential to R2 medium-density residential located at Chesapeake Drive, tax map and parcel number 531-10.00-379.00 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilman Santos, second. Are there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Henderson?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Santos?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Holland?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman McCoy?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
And Councilman King?
I vote no.
Okay,
I think there's a lot of issues currently that need to be resolved before we consider expanding.
okay. Thank you. All right, so that passes. We'll go on to number 2.
Public hearing number 2, findings of facts, Governor's Grant Investors LLC requesting preliminary site plan review to subdivide a parcel into 40 lots. The proposed zoning is R2 medium-density residential located on Chesapeake Drive. Tax map and parcel 531-10.00-379.00. Minimum lot size is 4,500 square feet, 35 feet wide. All the proposed lots do meet those zoning requirements. Planning and zoning did make a favorable recommendation to council for approval on April 7th.
Okay, I'll accept the motion on item number 2.
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the request for Governor's Grant Investors LLC for a preliminary site plan review to subdivide a parcel into 40 lots, zone R2 medium density residential located at Chesapeake Drive, tax map and parcel 531-10.00-379.00 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Holland. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilman Santos, second. So are there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Holland?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Santos?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Henderson?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to explain my vote.
Okay.
I have a sympathy for the homeowners association because I'm also a president of the Lakeside Villas Condominium Association in Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. So I know what it's like to try to herd cats. However, based on the facts found here, I believe that it's in the best interest of the city and of Governor's Grant to, since we've approved the R3 to R2, is to have this preliminary preliminary approval move forward, notwithstanding all the other issues that need to be resolved before it can become final. Based on the findings of facts, I vote yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilman McCoy?
If I could elaborate as well,
Sure.
briefly. On the same vein, moving forward with this allows us to rectify some of these issues. Going through the preliminary site plan, we'll have engagement from state, county, conservation to make sure the issues we're talking about tonight ideally get resolved. So that understanding, yes, based on findings of facts.
Okay, thank you. Councilman King?
Once again, I vote no. I think past history behavior will only indicate future, so I'm not in favor of it. I think there's too many issues that need to be resolved and brought to us before we vote on it, so my vote's no.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it's passed 4-1. Thank you very much. All right, now we go to number 3.
Public hearing number 3, findings of facts, Alan T. Handy requesting a preliminary site plan review for the construction of a proposed storage space facility located on Norman Eskridge Highway, tax map and parcel 331-5.00-48.05. Zoning is C2 highway commercial, and the zoning requirements for storage facilities there are listed there. And this site does meet them, and we are working with them on some of the finer details on for their final site plan. And Planning and Zoning made a favorable recommendation to council April 7th.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, it's Councilman Henderson again. I make a motion to approve the request of Alan T. Handy for a preliminary site plan approval for the construction of a proposed storage space facility located on Norman Eskridge Highway, tax map and parcel number 331-5.00-48.05, Zone C2 Highway Commercial District, as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, I second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Henderson?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Holland?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman McCoy?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman King?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Santos?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, number 4.
Public hearing number 4, findings of facts for Coastal Real Estate Holdings LLC. They're requesting a final site plan review for the construction of a proposed 9,421 square foot commercial building located on the corner of Fallon Avenue and Jet Drive, tax map and parcel 331-5.00-50.27, zoned C2 highway commercial. 60 paved parking spaces are provided, 48 is required by code. Stormwater will drain to the adjacent regional stormwater pond, and it has approvals from the State Fire Marshal and Sussex Conservation for those. Planning and Zoning did make a favorable recommendation to council on April 7th.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman McCoy, I'll make the motion to approve the request of Coastal Real Estate Holdings LLC for a final site plan review for the construction of a proposed 9,421 square foot commercial building located on the corner of Fallon Avenue and Jet Drive, tax map and parcel number 331-500-50.27, zoned C2 Highway Commercial District as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman King, I'll second the motion.
Okay, are there any questions on the motion? All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman McCoy?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman King?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Santos?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Henderson?
Yes, based on findings of
And
facts.
Councilman Holland?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, item number 5.
Number 5, findings of facts for Jesus and Margarita Sandoval, requesting a subdivision of a parcel into 2 lots in order to build single-family homes on each lot. They are located on Thompson Court. Tax map and parcel 431-5.00-390.00. Zoning is R2, medium density residential. The zoning requirements for an R2 lot are minimum 4,500 square feet and a minimum 35-foot lot width. The proposed lots are Lot 1, 6,381 square feet and 58 foot wide, and Lot 2 is 6,517 square feet and 58 feet wide. Planning and Zoning made a favorable recommendation to council for approval on April 7th.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the request of Jesus and Margarita Sandoval for a subdivision of a parcel into 2 lots to build single-family homes on each lot, located on Thompson Court, tax map and parcel number 431-5.00-390.00, zoned R2 medium density residential as presented.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Santos. Is there a second?
Councilman McCoy, I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Santos?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Henderson?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Holland?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman McCoy?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
And Councilman King?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Okay, it's unanimous. And finally, number 6.
Number 6, findings of facts, is Delmarva Central Railroad Company. They're requesting a subdivision of a parcel in order to sell the existing building, former BASF plant, and lot. Property is located at 100 Industrial Park Boulevard, tax map and parcel 531-10.00-236.02. The zoning is M1 Light Industrial District. The M1 zoning requirements is a 2-acre minimum and 200 feet wide. And both lots meet those requirements. Lot 1, being the former BASF plant, is 5.64 acres and 503 feet wide, and Lot 2 is the remainder of 7.77 acres and 465 foot wide on Tower Drive and 151 feet on Industrial Park Boulevard. Planning and zoning made a favorable recommendation to council for approval on April 7th.
Okay, I'll accept the motion.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Councilman King, I'll make a motion to approve the request of Delmarva Central Railroad Company to subdivide a parcel in order to sell the existing building, former BASF, and lot property located at 100 Industrial Boulevard, tax map and parcel number 531-10.00-236.02, zoned M1 Light Industrial District as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the motion? No, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman King?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman McCoy?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Holland?
Yes, based on findings of facts.
Councilman Henderson?
Yes, based on findings of
And
facts.
Councilman Santos?
Yes, based on findings of
Okay, it's
facts.
unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Mike.
work
Thank
you're
you,
doing out there. We appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Let's go on to new business number 1 and call up Mrs. Heineke to give us the results of the election.
Really regretting this sweater.
Don't
So,
say.
New business item number 1 is the presentation of the certificate of election for the Seaford municipal election held on April 16th, 2022. In your packet, you have the original certificate, which was certified on April 16th. The results shown on the certificate are as follows. For the office of mayor, the incumbent David Genshaw received 412 votes. Challenger Pat A. Jones received 189 votes. For the council seat, the incumbent Matthew McCoy received 400 votes, and the challenger Stacy Witt Spicer received 199 votes. The certificate of election also shows a total number of ballots cast as 717, which included a report of 230 absentee ballots. The Monday after the election, April 18th, a possible discrepancy was brought to the city's attention. After it was reviewed, staff did find the total number of absentee ballots on the certificate of election was incorrectly reported. And the total number of individual votes received for each candidate was what was actually counted as the absentee ballots themselves. So just as a reminder, a ballot can contain multiple candidates for multiple seats, but the ballot itself is what needed to be counted at that point. At that time, the Board of Elections was asked to hold a public meeting as soon as possible. Of course, we needed to conform with Delaware Code regarding public notice, so we had to wait 7 days. Additionally, the state election commissioner and the director of the Department of Elections for Sussex County were informed of the discrepancy and the city's corrective action plan. So this Monday, the 25th, the Board of Elections held a meeting to publicly explain the error. They recounted the ballots and recertified the election results. The adjustment in the certificate of election did not change the actual results or the outcome of the election. This adjustment just gave us an accurate idea of the turnout for the election and made the records accurate. With that, the number of ballots cast from in-person voting was amended to 487. The number of ballots cast from absentee ballots was 115, for a total of 602 total ballots cast. The new certificate of elections has been posted here at City Hall. on the website and shared with both the state and county election officials. And then also the Board of Elections issued a statement of apology, which is posted and reads as follows. We, the City of Seaford Board of Elections, would like to express our sincerest apologies for the incorrect absentee ballot count announced and posted on the Certificate of Elections on April 16th, 2022. The votes for each candidate on absentee ballots were counted as 2 individual votes in the overall total. This made the total number of absentee votes higher and inaccurate, therefore making the total vote count inaccurate as well. We convened as the board on Monday, April 25th, 2022, to discuss and correct the totals as reflected in the amended certificate of election, issued immediately following the meeting. Again, we apologize for this clerical error, and please know we hold our position as members of the board in the highest regard. Sincerely, City of Seaford Board of Elections, and that was signed by all members that day. And that's all I've got. If anybody's got any questions.
Yeah, I have one.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, I had an opportunity to tune in and watch a little bit of the meeting via the web, and very, very confusing to me. And after reading the letter of apology, can we talk a little bit about how the error even happened? I didn't see. I understand things were doubled, but
Sure.
Can we talk a little bit about how and why it was doubled, and what we're going to do as a city moving forward to prevent that from happening again?
Well, it seems minimal, but you can chalk it up to human error. It happens. Basically, the votes were counted accurately. Again, it didn't change the actual outcome of the election, but when they were counted, they were counted as those individual votes on the ballot, as opposed to being counted as a total, just one singular ballot. So while the numbers for the votes were accurate, it was just the way that they were reported. They weren't reported as a ballot. They were reported as a vote itself. So again, human error, it happens. I give a lot of credit to the Board of Elections. That is a very long day. That's a lot of information to count, not just the ballots themselves, but the entire day itself, just trying to maintain, the election itself and ensure that things run smoothly. So it is unfortunate that one small error, leads to a bigger problem. But I think we did everything that we could to try to address it as quickly as possible.
Sure. Yeah, and I hear that, and my opinion is it should never happen.
I agree.
And I don't agree that it's a small error. And can we talk about who counted, who was responsible for counting the ballots?
Well, the way that the process is set up is so that you have a Board of Elections that oversees the election.
Right.
Their job is to really oversee that portion of it to maintain, accuracy.
Sure.
So what they do is they sit in a row. They have the ballots on one end, and the first board member is charged with opening those ballots, and they pass them in 10 at a time or so, or whatever they feel comfortable with. And then once it gets to the end, the person at the end reads it out loud. But prior to that, it's been recorded. It's being tallied as they go. And they go back and they double check each time to make sure that the counts that they have are accurate. So they have a lot of fail-safes in place there to make sure that those votes for each individual candidate do get recorded accurately. Sure. It was just how it was recorded in the certificate of elections after that where the error occurred. So they do have a system in place. After the meeting the other day, I think it was agreed that there are some adjustments that can be made to ensure that that doesn't happen again. I can tell you I personally went back, for prior elections to verify that that wasn't a mistake that had happened before and hadn't been caught.
Sure.
I highly doubt it with as quickly as it was caught this time, but better to be safe than sorry.
Sure. And not to be long-winded, the reason that I'm
you're fine.
asking is watching it on the live stream, there seemed like there was a lot of confusion. Even with the process, who counted it,
Yeah.
we've done it this way.
Sure.
So it seemed like there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of confusion with the Board of Election on the actual live screen. It seemed like there was still
Yes.
confusion after the fact.
And I would agree with you on that, but I think what was accomplished at that meeting was that the community, the members, the people that were there from the public had the ability to see just what's involved in that and how, it can be one simple, small thing that gets missed, or I didn't hear that, or, you know, who's to say? But they were able to sit here in the room and see how it's done. So while there was confusion, I think the most important part was to ensure that at the end of the day, it was completely accurate.
Awesome. And I will say I think you did an outstanding job through the entire process.
Everybody did.
Yep,
It is a long day, and there's
Yep.
a lot involved in it, but
All right,
I
thank you.
appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
We tend to forget that they're volunteers and they're all working, and this was your first time, and we were on a new system, so it was, I think it was a great job. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this may be a question for the city manager or possibly our city solicitor. Due to the fact that the votes have been reset, certified, is the 20-day waiting period going to be reset?
So, that was considered, and just to cover all of our bases, it was agreed that it would be best to just extend that date to, it was the 24th?
That's our next council
Yeah,
meeting, yes, ma'am.
yes. Just to make sure, because there was an issue, that there's no conflict with that 20 days.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Yes.
It's more of a comment. Just want to reiterate what some of y'all said. I think the city did a great job all through Saturday. I know it's a really long day for a lot of people. It's good to see a lot of volunteers in here. I know Buddy Lamb was here 6:30 in the morning, and you know, it's a long day for a lot of people, and you guys did a great job overall. I want to commend the Board of Elections. I know, again, they had to go through that process yesterday, and it was a long process, but they were committed to getting it right, which I think is the most important thing. So, and to all the candidates who ran, I think everybody ran a very strong race, and it was great to see the city come out in a strong showing.
Just got to get that turnout higher next time.
Working on it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next on our agenda is the resolution to change the council meetings we talked about at our last council meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, as council will recall, this was an issue that was actually requested by Mr. Bo McDowell, the Sussex County representative for the Department of Elections. And due to the conflict on these specific days, it was requested that City Council consider moving their meeting. After consultation with the city solicitor on our options and discussion amongst council, it was decided to move the council meeting dates to the Wednesdays for the September 13th and November 8th meetings to accommodate those primary and general elections. So the actual meetings now, if this resolution is adopted, would be September 14th and November 9th. Same time, 7 p.m. Not really sure if there are any questions related to this resolution. We did have to do a resolution because, as council is aware, the dates for council meeting are laid out in the charter. So this is the proper way to revise the meeting dates.
Okay, are there any questions in regards to the change in meeting dates for September and November? If not, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion to approve resolution number R2-2022 to reschedule the regular council meeting dates for the Tuesday, September 13th and November 8th, 2022, Wednesday, September 14th and November 9th, 2022 at 7 p.m. to accommodate the primary and general elections as presented.
Motion, is there a second? Okay, thank you, Councilman. Any questions on the motion? I'll do a roll call. Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Aye. And Councilman Hall? Aye. Okay, unanimous. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to invite Chief Kraft down to on-street parking on Front Street.
Evening, Chief.
I'll keep it short. On April 8th, I received a letter from Chief Wilson of the Seaford Volunteer Fire Department that expressed concerns for the turning radius there on at 105 North Front Street. When you turn off of High Street on the north front across from Rural Farms where Coors Wellness is, used to be Connections. The parking spots were typically filled up during these fire alarms, and a lot of folks were congregating. And at times, people were parking in the yellow no parking zone, and it was causing a lot of problems for the trucks to turn. So in the preliminary investigation, we went out there and measured it. It's about 72 foot of parking area, which equates to about 3 parking spaces. I did discuss this at the liaison meeting with Councilman Henderson as well as Chief Wilson to get additional information. Made contact on the 13th of April with the manager, of course, who actually said he's not surprised that we made contact with him. They've had to have folks move out of the no parking area in the past. They've noticed a lot of congregation of folks. The fire alarm's been going off quite a bit with with recent fires, and he can see where it's problematic. We discussed some solutions, and the recommendation is that we extend the yellow no parking area up approximately 50 feet to leave one space for drop-off and pickup. And in addition to that, the manager, of course, said that they do an indoctrination or a meeting with their new clients, and they're going to reinforce that it's just for drop-off and pickup, to try to eliminate folks from standing and gathering there, as there's been reports in the past of folks walking in the roadway, causing traffic concerns. And I talked to Public Works Director Burley Mears, and that wouldn't be a problem to put a sign there and to extend that yellow line. We could do that relatively quickly.
Perfect. Are there any questions in regards to this limited on-street parking?
One question.
Councilman McCoy?
Any thoughts to any additional signage, just as like a reminder? Because if it's something new, people may not, they might be told, but as we know, people fall out of habit real quick, and they could roll right back into it.
So that's going to be reinforced with the manager.
Okay.
And there's parking right to the north side of the building there. They're going to encourage folks to, once they drop off, is just to park around back there. Or just to park around back there and try to discourage folks from parking at Royal Farms and walking across the increasing foot traffic.
Yeah, right.
And we were going to put a sign there, drop off and pick up. And that yellow is pretty common knowledge. That's Title 21 of the Delaware Code that says it prohibits parking. And so I don't see where additional signage would be, but maybe social media, making folks aware that this is changing on this date and what it's for and the reason for it. Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Any other, Councilman King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, what about the back of the building? Has that road, that alley, or that behind the building? Is there any thought around just kind of like changing the flow of traffic, maybe come in and then exit to prevent some of that confusion or some of that congestion?
So that, the manager, when we spoke about that they do have, it goes across there. They have a difficult time controlling folks, what they're going to do. They've seen people parking in no parking zones. They've asked them to move and relocate. They do have a security person there. And one of the conversations we had was about doing their drop-off and pickup. Didn't specifically say about just coming in one way and pulling out the other way. I don't know that we could control that. That's their private property.
Sure.
But I can certainly have a conversation with them to see if they consider it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Okay, if there's no other questions for the chief, I'll accept the motion.
Councilman Henderson again. Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of Chief of Police Marshall Kraft to limit on-street parking along the east side of North Front Street adjacent to 105 North Front Street due to public safety concerns as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman Hall, Mr. Mayor, I second that motion.
Okay, are there any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
Councilman King?
Aye.
Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Thanks for your work on this, Chief. Appreciate it
Thank
so
you.
much. All right, next we need to appoint an annexation committee for the property that's on the corner of Herring Run Road and 13A, the property that's behind Lowe's, is looking to annex into the city, and we need to appoint an annexation committee, and I've asked Councilman Henderson, Councilman Holland, and Councilman McCoy to sit on that committee. If there are no questions about that, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation of Mayor Genshaw to appoint Councilman Dan Henderson as chairman, Councilman Orlando Holland, and Councilman Matt McCoy as the annexation committee to investigate the possibility of annexing the property located at the northeast corner of Road 534, Herring Run Road, and Route 13, Bridgeville Highway, Sussex County Tax Map Parcel Number 331-5.00-43.02 as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman King, I'll second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on the motion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilman Santos?
Aye.
Councilman Henderson?
Aye.
Councilman Holland?
Aye.
Councilman McCoy?
Aye.
And Councilman King?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. We've already done new business number 5, so then we'll invite our city solicitor up to do new business number 6 on changes to the code on fetal remains.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. City Manager. I am here to present for the first reading 3 specific amendments to what we have called the Dignity Ordinance or the Fetal Remains Ordinance. I would characterize each of the amendments or the proposed amendments as pretty minor, if not semantic. I'll go through them very briefly. The first proposed amendment is in section 8.9.13. In the original version, the disposition of the remains, the woman at a ambulatory surgical treatment center had a limit of 12 hours at the facility. We have proposed an amendment to change the duration of that stay, and the language is until the patient has met the facility's criteria for discharge, and that is consistent with 16 Delaware Administrative Code, Section 3335. So that's the first proposed amendment. The second proposed amendment is in Section 8.9.15, the requirements for operators of crematories. The original version provided multiple options for disposition of the fetal remains by a crematory. The proposed amendment provides that the disposal must be by returning the cremated fetal remains to the responsible party in a secure container or vessel of no less construction than that of a minimum metal material, ridge plastic material, or heavy-grade corrugated material, consistent with 24 Delaware Administrative Code 3100. That's the actual language used in the Delaware Administrative Code. So that is the second proposed amendment. The third proposed amendment is in section 8.9.16. It just changes the, it relates to the reporting of an abortion. The original version had the abortion reported to the Office of Vital Statistics within 30 days. This provision, the amendment, the proposed amendment, has the reporting to the Delaware Health Statistics Center within 30 days. I'm sorry, within 30 days. It previously had 10 days. Within 30 days, also consistent with 16 Delaware Code 3133. So those are the 3 proposed amendments. I'm happy to entertain questions or comments. I would remind council that this ordinance is the subject of pending litigation in the Delaware Court of Chancery, and because of that, any questions or comments should be done within the sphere of executive session. And I'm available for executive session either now or if we want to accommodate the public, I can wait till the end and do executive session at the end.
Well, I think our intent was to go into executive session now, so if anybody has those questions, we can get those answered right now since we've done that. So with that, I'll accept a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Councilman King, I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. We're going to go into executive session. We'll open the doors back up when we're done. Thank you.